conclusive enough to link the murderer of Celia Shepard to other murders in the Vallejo area in the past year.
He had this black hood on, little slits in the eyes.
Try to do whatever we can to help this man.
Imagine receiving a letter in the mail, one that's not only typed in an eerie, cryptic code, but also includes details of a brutal crime that only the killer could know. Now imagine this letter is just the beginning of a chilling string of correspondences, each one more twisted and taunting than the last. What if the person sending these letters was still out there, watching, waiting, and you couldn't find them? This is the chilling reality of the Zodiac Killer, a mystery that has haunted investigators for over 50 years. The beginning. It all started in the late 1960s. California, specifically the San Francisco Bay Area, was terrorized by a series of murders that seemed to be disconnected at first. But as the body count rose, a chilling pattern began to emerge. The Zodiac Killer, as he came to be known, was meticulous, calculating, and terrifyingly confident. The first murders took place in December 1968, when 17-year-old Betty Lou Jensen and her 16-year-old boyfriend, David Faraday, were gunned down on a remote road. But this was just the beginning. Then, just 7 months later, the killer struck again. Darlene Ferrin and Michael Mageau were parked at Blue Rock Springs Park, enjoying a peaceful evening, when a man approached their car. Without warning, he opened fire, killing Darlene and severely wounding Michael. Michael would survive the attack, but his description of the killer was unsettlingly vague. A white male between 25 and 30 years old, about 5 feet 8 inches with a stocky build. This description, though, would lead nowhere. And that's when the killer decided to make sure everyone knew he was in control. The first letter. On July 31st, 1969, a series of letters arrived at local newspapers. The killer not only confessed to the murders of Betty Lou, David, Darlene, and Michael, but he also mocked the police for their incompetence. What made these letters even more chilling were the cryptograms that came with them. Puzzles, riddles that seemed impossible to crack. The Zodiac challenged the public to decipher his secret code, promising to reveal his identity once it was solved. But no one could. For years, the mystery deepened, and with every letter, the Zodiac grew bolder. In one letter, he wrote, "I like killing people because it is so much fun." It was clear that the Zodiac didn't just want to kill. He wanted to play with people's minds, to prove that he was untouchable. This killer wasn't just someone hiding in the shadows. He was watching, waiting for his next moment to strike. The third victim. The Zodiac's next attack took place on the night of September 27, 1969. Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Ann Shepard were relaxing by the shore of Lake Berryessa when a man approached them, wearing an executioner-style hood with a symbol of a cross circle on the front. He tied them up, pulled out a knife, and began to stab them. After the attack, the killer used a black marker to write a message on the car door, identifying himself as the Zodiac and referencing his previous murders. He escaped before authorities could catch him. This chilling message sent shockwaves through the community, but what was even more terrifying was the fact that the Zodiac didn't just commit another murder. He now had a distinct signature, the cross-circle symbol. The killer wasn't just a random psychopath. He was sending a message, an unsettling declaration of his superiority. But just like the others, the police were left with nothing concrete to go on. The San Francisco Chronicle. The Zodiac's thirst for fame was insatiable. In a move that both baffled and terrified the public, he sent yet another letter to the San Francisco Chronicle, offering more details about his previous murders and yet another cryptogram. This time, the letter was signed off with a new slogan. "This is the Zodiac speaking." It was as though he was becoming more of a shadow than a person, emerging briefly in the light, only to disappear again. The most unnerving part? The Zodiac's claim that he would continue to kill and that he enjoyed watching the public panic. He wasn't just a killer, he was a performer, pulling the strings behind the scenes, relishing every second of fear he created. His arrogance grew with every unsolved cryptogram, every unanswered letter. The pressure builds. By 1970, the Zodiac had struck again, but this time he left behind something unexpected. A bomb. He planted a bomb at a payphone booth, set to detonate in an attempt to make the police chase him even more. But before the authorities could catch him, he disappeared into thin air. Some believed he was taunting them. Others thought he was planning something bigger, more deadly. But after that, his attacks seemed to slow down. The letters kept coming, but they grew fewer in number. In the early 1970s, the Zodiac Killer's letters began to dry up. Investigators had followed every lead and chased every clue, but the killer remained elusive. No matter how close they got, the Zodiac seemed to always slip away. His reign of terror stretched for years, and soon the case began to grow cold. But for the investigators who lived this nightmare every day, the mystery remained. The final letter. The last confirmed letter from the Zodiac arrived in 1974. It was eerily silent for years, and though there were sporadic reports of sightings or new killings that might be connected to him, the Zodiac disappeared as quickly as he had arrived. But his letters, his cryptograms, his disturbing messages lingered in the minds of everyone who read them. Some investigators began to question whether the Zodiac was still out there, perhaps even living among them. The case remains unsolved, a haunting reminder of a time when fear was so real, so palpable, that it gripped an entire region. But as decades passed, new developments started to surface. Some believed the Zodiac had been identified, but these claims often crumbled under scrutiny. The Zodiac Killer was a phantom, just out of reach, just beyond the grasp of the law. Theories and suspects. Throughout the years, there have been numerous suspects in the Zodiac case. Some believed he was Arthur Lee Allen, a convicted child molester with a disturbing obsession with the case. Others pointed to a man named Richard Gaikowski, a journalist whose own cryptic letters mirrored the Zodiac's. But despite extensive investigations, no solid evidence has ever surfaced to conclusively identify the killer. As for the Zodiac himself, there are countless theories. Was he an ordinary man who just snapped? Or was he a sadistic genius, meticulously planning his every move? Some believe he had a background in law enforcement or the military, explaining his ability to avoid capture for so long. But the truth remains elusive. The cold case. The Zodiac Killer's case may have gone cold, but the intrigue, the speculation, and the mystery never truly died. As new advancements in DNA technology and forensic science arise, there's still a glimmer of hope that one day the truth will come to light. However, with each passing year, the Zodiac Killer's identity slips further away. His letters remain a chilling reminder that sometimes justice doesn't come, not when the killer is always one step ahead. The Zodiac Killer's case is not just a story of murder. It's a story of obsession, fear, and a twisted game of cat and mouse. For over 5 decades, he has remained an enigma, his identity a dark secret hidden behind a mask of cryptic letters and unsolved codes. As we continue to search for answers, one thing is clear. The Zodiac Killer's legacy is far from over. His case still haunts investigators, and his cryptic messages continue to taunt anyone who dares to unravel his twisted mystery. Will we ever know who the Zodiac Killer was? Or will his shadow forever loom over us? The case may be unsolved, but the mystery remains, alive, tantalizing, and waiting to be cracked.